I think they're fine. Anybody interested in accepting them as they are, or do you want time to review them? Up to you.
I'm also fine with them as is.
Good with me. I think I sent one over to Michelle late, but
Okay, great. But we have a motion to approve 8 minutes as so forwarded from Michelle.
Motion to approve 8 sets of minutes as forwarded by Michelle to us.
Thank you.
second,
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. So we'll get those on the record. Thank you very much. Good to get that out of the way. John, welcome. Are you ready to give us an update?
Yes, just 1 second.
Sure.
I'm just typing out something to show you guys.
Okay.
And then, all right, so yeah, so we got some good news today. Michelle and I ears were burning back and forth, I think, because we had gotten our Westboro CM application back in 5 weeks, which would have put Cohasset's in for next week. Lo and behold, it arrived today. So we got the letter saying we were okay to move ahead. Actually, Michelle, can I share my screen? Thank you. Bear with me, guys. All right. So here's it's you know, all those dozens of pages go in and you get this nice one letter back that basically says you are okay to use CM at risk for the Cohasset Town Hall project. We've met their requirements. We have to get, you know, when we do this, the firm has to supply their certificate of eligibility for DCAM, you know, kind of all of that good stuff. And then if during the project, you know, you change your OPM, you need to let them know that as well. And that's really it. So the important stuff, though, is talking about timing and what's left to do. So Michelle and I spoke briefly about this today. So as we know, we're trying to get a number in, you know, for the fall. And, you know, we had talked way back when about possibly trying to get a bid number. That's not going to happen. Okay, it's not going to happen in time for getting a number for the for town meeting. So what we have is the 2-phase process to get the CM. We can place the ad in the central register tomorrow. Timing couldn't be any better, to run next Wednesday, the 29th. If you add 2 weeks to that, and you account for the 1 day for the 4th of July holiday, which is Monday the 4th, that puts our 2-week responses back on 7/14. Basically, then if I give us a week to review those, that's kind of the easy review. The easy review is, you know, are the firms that have submitted, are they legitimate construction managers at risk? Have they done the work before on projects of similar size and shape? The last estimate we have of this job for construction was around, construction only was about 16 million. The 16 and a half. I don't see a problem with the CM being able to pass that bar. What we want to be careful of are those firms that are saying that they are CMs but aren't. Maybe the GC that's trying to, you know, make this their first CM project. It's not what we need here. Okay, so, you know, let's assume for the sake of this, we get all legitimate CMs, and we get together and say, okay, they're all in. You know, you then put out a request for proposals to those qualified firms. Those proposals are made up of 2 pieces: a non-price proposal, basically their plan of how they're going to build this project for you, and their pricing piece. Obviously, the pricing piece is going to be, as you can see from this little box over here, going to be broken up into some smaller pieces. It's going to be broken up into a CD estimate. Okay, that's the most important thing they have to do for us, because, and frankly, if the project doesn't get approved, that's where our relationship with them will end. So we want them to price the estimate separately. We want them to give us a price for pre-construction services, the time post town meeting until we get to bid, that they'll be helping us go through the plans, do any value engineering, trying to tighten up any things as Johnson Roberts does that last 10 to 15% of the design. They'll also bid the general conditions for the job, basically saying, hey, here's what I charge for a month to run a project. And you're telling me, owner, that it's going to be a 16-month job, 16 times whatever that number is. That's what I'm going to charge you for general conditions. We're also going to tell them that the project is approximately 16 million. And based on that, they're going to bid their fee. They're basically going to say, all right, I'm going to charge you 1%, 2%, 2.5%. And that fee number, whatever that is, that piece is not negotiable. The other pieces are, okay? When we kind of sit with them, you know, and do a reconciliation of the different proposals we get, you know, someone may look to be low, but they may staff the job with one person. Someone may look to be really high, but they may have carried 6 people to manage the job, unnecessary. So our job for you is to try to level those out so that we're comparing an apple to an apple to an apple to say, okay, Cohasset, this is who we think the best price option is. Prior to that, though, we're going to have to decide who we think the best non-price option is. And you don't have to go with the low, you go with the best fit for the town. How do you also do that? Well, you also conduct interviews. You have the option to conduct interviews, and I would strongly suggest that we do that. The only caveat is that if we pre-qualify 5 of them to submit a proposal, you're not allowed to shortlist that. What you do for one, you have to do for all. So if we have 4 firms, 5 firms, we may have to interview 5 firms, okay? And we do that prior to seeing the price, because you want to have a good feeling of these firms without price impacting it. So you could say, wow, I really like company B. They're really good. I think they'd be a great fit in the town, and then see what the price is after that. So we rank them both, and then we get together and we contract. And then, you know, we'd be looking at completing the CD estimate sometime the 15th through the 19th of August, which is getting pretty probably. I said to Michelle, I need that date, that the select board needs that number as late as possible, because otherwise, if we're just throwing a plug number, we've got to goose it up and let the chips fall where they may. You're losing the value of having the CM. But again, timing is what it is. The application process took what it is. So bottom line is what I need to leave here with tonight. I have everything I need to do for this first phase. I don't need anything else from you guys, except we have to officially establish, and I don't know if we did it already, who the selection committee is going to be. It's going to be Vertex. It's going to be Johnson Roberts. I need 2 people from the committee. Now, when we submitted the application, Mark's name was on it. Mark signed it. I would suggest Mark be in that group, just because he's the most, he works for one of them, not the ones that are applying, but a firm like it. And then I need one other volunteer who will be willing to kind of go through this process with us. When we get to the proposal and the interview stage, we can set up, we may have a few more people, but we don't have to deal with that tonight. Bottom line is by statute, we need to have in the minutes of, that we picked who the selection committee is going to be for this first phase, what's called pre-qualification committee. We need to have that in the minutes before the solicitation goes out. The reality is, that solicitation is not going to go out for a week, but the meeting was tonight. The authorization came through, so no better time than the present. So that was a good 5 minutes of nonstop speaking. So turn it over to you guys.
Mark, you have a question? You're muted.
All right, there it is. So in terms, you said the schedule, so are the CMs gonna propose a schedule to us based on the drawings, the sequences, put their own schedule together to figure out?
It's a great question. No, what I'm going to do is we're going to give them something very ballparkish for this RFQ phase. And I figured you and I would get on the phone, and talk a couple of times between now and the RFP phase and with Johnson Roberts, probably need to have a working group kind of discussion with them to figure out what that duration is going to be. I mean, the reality here with the CM at risk is that you know, the fee is not negotiable. The fee is based on an estimated cost. If the price of the job goes up, you know, the fee goes up.
And that we're talking about as a percentage based.
As a percentage of the
Yes.
estimated construction. But the reality is the rest of it is time-based. So if we tell them the job is going to be 16 months and ends up through the construction, the rest of the design process, we say, oh, 18 would be better. Well, bottom line is we would owe them we would expect to see 2 more months of general conditions in their guaranteed maximum price calculation when they put it together. Similarly, if we say, well, we could probably get it done in 14, we would expect to see them have 2 less months, but they will have already given us the pricing for that. So just so everyone's clear, we're getting at this pricing phase, we're getting components. We're not getting the full story because the biggest piece of it, the open book part about the work itself, won't be ready to go yet. It's not ready to bid yet. So we've got lots of other steps to do before we actually have bids, but the CM is actually committing to their part of the equation now. Their management in the field, the fee they're going to put on top of all the costs. So they're going to get, they're going to make 2% on, you know, the $10 million worth of subs and the, you know, however many millions worth of self-perform, and then, you know, their general conditions for that management time during that same.
So when in this process, would you say that, you know, if we're giving them a rough ballpark of what the duration of the project that we think it is, at what point would the firms be looking at this and say, you know, I have one firm that says, you know, this is really a 16-month job, and then another one saying this is a 14-month job, and is that during the interview process?
So what I would expect is, so typically when you would do this, and this again, whatever the numbers are that we lock into the RFP, those are locked in, and we can, you know, we can peel those back once the decision is made as who's the best fit is. But I would expect that to be one of the things that you get out of the non-priced part of the proposal. And frankly, when they come and interview with you, it's their chance to verbalize that non-priced proposal. So it's at that point, I would expect to hear that feedback of, listen, we've looked at this and we think we can get it done in 14, and here's why. Or, hey, we've looked at this and we think, you know, it's a little longer. Frankly, you know, we can also give them a short list of questions we want them to address. You know, and it wouldn't surprise me that if one of these firms that comes through, 1 or 2 of them, hand us an estimate that night and say, here, we did this already. Like I've had that happen on some projects before. You know, this isn't a very big project compared to some of the, some of the things they're used to seeing from a square footage standpoint. You know, they get someone working on this thing in 2 weeks, they can do that estimate and they look at it as a loss leader. It would not surprise me if we get at least one estimate for, gratis as part of this, or at least, hey, we've looked at your numbers and here's where we think, you know, there are concerns. You know, we can glean an awful lot of intel out of the interview portion of this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the value. The value is real. So if this doesn't go anywhere, we're still going to get a ton of great info from them just through that small piece we're committing to for the estimate.
Any other questions for John?
I just want to say, so we called legal counsel today to figure out what that date is. We have some conflicting information, so I should have the exact date tomorrow. I did read online. It could be as early as August 3rd. I know
Well, I guess the question is, Michelle, could we give them a number and then edit it? I mean, we can give them that number and feel pretty good that it's going to be within 10%.
So I think the answer to that is yes, because all we're doing is we're getting a question on the ballot, and I believe the select board has in mind the value of the debt exclusion that they're looking to pass, and a 10% difference isn't going to kind of make or break us, I don't think, in this project. So I think the answer is yes, but I don't want to speak for them.
So I'm going to show folks what I sent you earlier today. And guys, this is, just give me 1 second. I'm trying to get it to a spot we can share it. we did if you recall, we did that estimate back, weeks and weeks and actually months ago at this point. And Steve kind of sent this around. This went to Johnson Roberts. This is kind of if you can see, can you guys see my Excel right now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this is the estimate kind of broken down into let's say, just more grouped set of numbers. We had the hard costs, we had the soft costs, we had the OPM fee, the design fee, bunch of contingency, which was basically 10% on the hard costs, 5% on the soft, minus, and then Michelle, did I have the appropriations right? 1, 2, and then another 200 recently?
Yep.
Last town meeting. Okay, so so the funding ask is about 17.7. So, I mean, again, we've done no other estimates, and the goal, if people push on a number, it's like, hey, the last town meeting, you just gave us the 200 grand to get rolling on this. We had to apply to the state. We haven't had the chance to have the benefit of the CM even opine on this a little bit yet. So again, we talked about maybe trying to get one of these guys to give us an estimate, through maybe an ad service with us. And I know a few of them probably would have done it, but you don't want to open up the potential even appearance of someone's favoritism later. Oh, well, you paid those guys to do it, so don't they have an inside track? I don't think there would be anything wrong with that, and we could always get that cleared. But I guess as long as we have the option to fill that number in prior to, at some point prior to, when is town meeting, Michelle, ultimately?
So fall town meeting will happen sometime in the beginning of December, but the ballot will be November 8th. So we're going to go to a ballot question before we even hit town meeting.
Does that happen? Oh yeah, I remember. Okay, yeah, I remember all this now. Okay, so the reality is, guys, I don't know if we had we could certainly get this thing close. I guess once we get a CM on board, we can keep tweaking this number. I mean, if we had them on board, is it possible if we were close enough to go to bid and we cut Stu loose, could we have bids by November 8th? I don't know. That's a question. I mean, because in a perfect world, that would be awesome. If you had until right before the ballot to, correct me if I'm wrong, the ballot won't have a number on it, correct? Usually doesn't.
I don't believe so. I think no, I think they are going to put a number on there because the question is going to be about a debt exclusion, and people are going to have to know the debt excluded amount before they agree to vote yay or nay on it.
But isn't that number going to be isn't our number going to be wrapped up in an overall larger number with other things?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, okay.
So so good question. I don't know if the number is going to be on the question or if it's just going to be an excluded debt question. I don't know.
So here's the thing. My thought is that as you continue to drive towards this, if there's any way in God's green earth, we could actually get this bid. That's wonderful because it gives some manner of certainty, and it will be important for, during the community outreach phase of this. Hey, here's the estimate. Oh, now it's an estimate done by a CM. Hey, now it's actually bids. If we could actually get to that piece, and it might be a heavy lift time-wise, because there's a whole pre-qualification phase of subcontractors we have to wedge into this too. And we could start with that almost immediately upon hiring the CM, so that, if in theory you could get them on board, do the estimate in August, pre-qualify in September, bid in October. It's not as crazy as it sounds. So that we could, see how we're leaning here.
So I have a question for the rest of the board members. So this, the numbers that John is showing.
Oh,
so
sorry.
Carol, you can take it. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
The Carolyn and I received an email today regarding the specifics of the funding request, the CM. I was going to respond. I didn't want to respond with those numbers unless I had approval from the board to, put them out there. So I don't know how you feel about that or how you want
Who-
to handle it.
Who was the request from?
Select board member.
John, you're pretty comfortable with the number?
Don't you put this on me.
Happy to.
Listen, the reality, here's the reality. The reality is our last AM Fogarty estimate was in November. Costs have continued to increase. Steve had put when we looked at this, he had put an increase. He had used a square foot cost. I don't know which he had increased the square foot cost a little bit back then based on some feedback we got from a bid in April or March, April when he did this. I mean, it's now we're seeing cost estimators put numbers like 850 on projects that are new. It's crazy. So, this number is the best information that we have right now. If they're going to push you for a number right now before we have had a chance to get the CM on board, then that number is to have an asterisk next to it and say this is based on an estimate done in November that was escalated to some amount into March of this year, but we have not had a chance to reset this number with the CM yet to reflect current market conditions. Some things are up, some things are down, but stay tuned. But this is where we were last time, and we're gonna, our goal is to try to hopefully stay around that number. Let's play devil's advocate for a minute, just us here. If this thing comes back and it's another $2 million, oh my God, now you're talking about some serious projects in jeopardy overall. Is it crazy VE? What do you VE? We've kind of been through this process already. If it comes back $500,000 over this, okay, we work to try to trim $500,000 out of it. You know what I mean? And that's probably something more doable. I don't see it going down. Like, it's not going down.
Do we know what we carried for escalation from the November number?
Yeah.
What percentage?
He carried, he had put 9% on it. So he basically took this November number and put 9% on it to the spring, to the midpoint of construction. We've been averaging, 10-ish, has been the number. A little, so I think I'm hopeful we're okay. There's some good escalation in here. There's some good contingency in here. Again, I hate spending contingency on a bid overage right away, because it just takes away from your available stuff for unexpecteds, especially in a historical renovation part of the building. So the other piece of this too, does this ask talk about potential funding from CPC to offset this number?
So that is definitely a conversation that we're having. But that was not asked for this particular ask regarding the CM and the total number.
Yeah, I mean, I think when whoever looked at this, here, I'll just show you guys. This was the spreadsheet, Mark, that we had been passing around before. This was the AM Fogarty estimate, this column over here. And then, that was kind of that was the November number. And then when we kind of talked about CM at risk, we extended the job another month, thinking that, probably made sense. We also increased some of the, escalation, assumed a 2.5% profit for the CM, increased the general conditions a little bit. So I think and increased the square foot cost. So, I mean, I do think that, we did that for both the inside work and the outside work. So I do think that we tried to capture a chunk of this, knowing that when, we were kind of driving towards, the fall for an ask. The question is was it enough based on what the market is doing? You know, we're opening a bid. We're actually opening a hard bid on a school tomorrow. And I will either come back to you green or say, okay, guess what? Numbers are holding a little bit, which would be great. But again, I won't know that till tomorrow. So anyway, this detailed column here on the right is all of that is what I used to boil this down for Michelle, and gave her this. So, I mean, obviously, Michelle, if, you know, when we talk about this, you know, again, it would be good to remind the folks that if people are going to get upset over this number, the reality is yeah, but remember, we're trying to ask CPC for three to four of that, which lessens the ask, obviously, for, like thumbs going, Carolyn's saying more. Okay.
Yeah, it should be 4 to 5 on the CPC.
You know, I mean, we can put that in here too. CPC grant, this is the right number. So worst case. So, you know, and that, so anyway, it's 12.7 to 13.7 is what we're looking at.
I think I'd much rather share this.
So a couple of thoughts. I think if we're being asked for a number from the select board, I don't see any option other than to say, this is the best number we have, right? It's not sort of like really an optional request, unless we truly didn't have a number that we felt, you know, we sort of like halfway comfortable with. I think we all feel that this is, you know, if it's not 100% accurate, it's probably directionally accurate, and it's the best number that we have at this point in time. I do think that we need to put some disclaimers around you know, the accuracy of the number, sort of usual you know, statements about that this is, you know, we had, as John, you know, eloquently said, we haven't had this actually run through a CM. This is just sort of what we have right now. Sort of, it's a little bit better than like back of the envelope, but it's not a real bid in hand. And so this is what we're doing for sort of estimating purposes at this point, and recognizing that it may, you know, the number may shift. But yeah, I think we have to share something.
Like
I mean,
one.
The reality is the design is still in progress. The design itself is not done. And we are in a most volatile market we've been in the last 10 to 15 years. So it can't be a surprise to anybody. And if they think that we can come up with a number that is rock solid without any issue, they're living in a fantasy land.
Yeah, the other piece that's really important here to talk about, and this will come back from some feedback, is one of the things which may come back from some feedback from the CMs, is one of the biggest issues we're seeing is the impact of lead times, and really an acknowledgement by the building community that, okay, you tell me it's a 12-month build. Normally, sure, it's a 12-month build, you know, all day long in normal times. But right now you're telling me that light fixtures, just pulling something out of the air, light fixtures are 12 months, 13 months, whatever, you know, or Windows, use Windows as an example. Windows for the new edition. Windows are running 14, you know, could be running 14 months. But wait a minute, the job's only 12. So the idea here is that if you can get this job bid and you call it an 18-month duration, you may not be doing anything. You know, what you're basically saying is, okay, contractor, we're saying 18 months, but we're giving you those months through November, December, January, February as kind of enabling months so that you can go ahead and get the light fixtures approved, order them, and we can start to take away that time it's going to take to procure them. And we won't, you know, bust the schedule because of it. That's the benefit of having the CM and saying, okay, these 7 items we have to buy sooner. You asked me for general conditions for, a 14-month job. Guys, we need to tell the subs 18 months. Here's why. That's the really important back and forth. That's time it's going to cost them. It shouldn't cost more hard dollars. It might cost some more management dollars for the CM, depending on how we kind of lay that out there. And again, that's also part of the discussion, the negotiation piece with the CM of, hey, if you're talking about an enabling phase, don't tell me you need your whole crew of 4, staff of 4 full time. Maybe they're working half time. So, I mean, that's really the collaborative nature of this, to try to get to a point where we're putting Cohasset in the best bidding climate we can.
And I think so. I want to level set. So I think the tone of the email was, let's see if we can get this, if we can make this work with all of the other projects that we have on the horizon. So I think seeing this less the CPC funding at 13.7, I don't think people would be as concerned with this number as they would be if we didn't have that CPC layered in there, which is a reality. We are going to get that funding.
So how about I keep the number at 4.5, puts you down to 13.2. Again, just call attention to the fact that, this is estimated right now, however you want to show that. Suddenly it's not as, to your point, it's not as scary as this number up here.
Right.
I mean, I can put, if you like, I can work on a few, putting those notes that I verbally gave you out there about, or qualifications. I can qualifications and exclusions based on what we know. Estimate done in May, done in February, escalated to this point, added for some cost for CM. Best estimate as of end of March 22. That's where we are right now. And we don't want to touch it again, because then we're going to touch it again after the CM comes on board. So, the thought now is just, let's wait for the CM.
Mm-hmm.
So I do agree with Gert. I think this number is feasible and something we could use to forward to the select board member, whoever's asking.
Well, it'll eventually become public. It's public now if anyone's watching. So
I saw Carolyn take a picture of it.
Yeah. But I think it would be nice, because I think we've gone through so many iterations. I don't know if people remember really what the cost was. Some people are saying 13, some people are saying 15, some people are saying 20. So I think it's good to get a number out there again, and start discussions around it.
Yeah.
So this is great. So John, I didn't take a picture, so can you forward it to me?
No. What I'll do is let me put some exclusions on it, and I will get it over to you shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Michelle, do you need a vote on that? Or are you comfortable with what we just talked about?
No, I'm comfortable. I just don't ever want to send anything out without the board's approval. Even though I know it's public record, but it's always good to have a discussion around something before I just send it off.
Yep, appreciate that.
So actually, I'm taking some notes, but I didn't know. So John, you had said we need to vote to approve a pre-qualification selection committee. Yeah. And I think by virtue, we've already approved Mark, but we need a second person.
I'm happy to do that unless someone else wants to jump in.
Yeah, pre-qualification committee before you issue the RFQ, designer, check, OPM, check, someone from the public agency, and then a second person from the public agency. And that can be building committee, can be procurement officer, can be assistant town manager.
So you need 4 people?
And again, just to be clear, we're going to do when we get them, I want folks to read them. We're going to do all the reference checks and stuff. So you don't have to call anybody. You don't have to do anything. beyond just get familiar with the information the folks give. We have people in the office that tear through these things all the time, do a great job of checking all the boxes, you know, DCAM certificate, update statement, letter from the bonding company, all of those boilerplate things, so that you guys can kind of focus on the who and whoever's going to do this, the who and the what of the, the proposed team, and really their experience to date as a CM. That's, and we'll give you our thoughts on the ones we've worked with, as will Phil. So the reality, this is an easier lift. Part one of this is an easier lift. RFP, little more work, a little bit more to think about, just because interviews, plans, strategies, they're going to give you more stuff to chew on. There's going to be very little Cohasset specific stuff in this first phase, in this first submission. The next submission is all about our project.
Okay. So for selection committee, I heard Phil volunteer.
Yeah, I'm happy to, whatever, sure. Happy to do the interview part.
Okay.
As long as I know Mark's there.
And John, you need 2 other people? Is that what you
Nope.
said?
Just
You're
two.
good. Just 2?
Just two. Yep.
Okay, so we need a vote to approve Mark and Phil for the pre-qualification selection committee.
So moved.
Okay.
Second,
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Approved. Thank you.
Great.
And I would just ask, so as we get into, as we go from RFQ to RFP, one of the things, just so you're all aware, one of the things, RFP, again, asking for price, we're also going to be providing them the form of contract. So I'll be working with Michelle and whoever town council to make sure that the CM agreement that gets put together, again, remember, it's going to be in parts. It's going to be, estimate first, then pre-construction, and then, whatever pre-construction gets done up until the vote, maybe pre-con by the month, and then pre-con post-vote. And again, if we get bids done by some strange, craziness, that'd be awesome. That's done only with a vote, a yes and a ballot vote and written authorization, basically by giving them an amendment to their contract. Do they move into the third part of the proposal, which is the actual starting to build that construction number? Sorry, let me finish the thought. So we're going to need council's input on the contract, especially given some of the things we've seen in the marketplace regarding claims, escalation claims. We may want him or her to tweak this thing and make it a little bit more Cohasset friendly. We've done pretty well on most of our projects with not paying escalation claims, but now what was known 2020 and what's known now is different. Someone could argue, costs are crazy. This went through the roof, so we need to make sure there's strong language there protecting the town from any stuff after the fact.
John, when's the next time that you'll need stuff from us?
Let's see. I think we're going to be good, Phil, until, I guess the question is, we should probably meet, let's see, 7/14 is when the responses are going to be due. We should probably meet some few number of days after that to inform the committee of who's qualified. I guess, I don't think we necessarily need, give me a second here. I don't know if we necessarily need a vote for that, or if this group can do it. Hang on a second.
Right now, we have meetings scheduled for the 6th and the 20th, right, Michelle?
sorry. I was hoping to get the drop dead date, but they also didn't have it. So I didn't hear that question.
We have meetings scheduled for the 6th and the 20th right now, right?
Yep, I have them every 2 weeks on the calendar.
So,
We
so
do
the
not need
14th is a Thursday.
Yeah, I just confirmed, we don't need a vote of this. If the committee is voting for Phil and Mark to make that decision with us and with Phil, we don't need to, unless you guys want to meet, otherwise we can send you an email and let you know the firms that were received and the ones that we've chosen or acknowledged are qualified to move to the next phase. So we don't need to have another interim meeting
Okay.
per se.
What's the date on that again, John, roughly?
So do you have can you see my screen right now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so RFQ will be due on 7/14. RFP, we would look to go out the following week. So basically what it means is it's going to be a pretty quick turn from 7/14 to 7/20 from us to try to get through these things. And again, if there are 4 firms that return them and they're firms we've worked with, it's going to be a real easy nod to say, yeah, we know they're qualified. We've worked with all of them. Where it becomes an issue is the firm that says, oh, I'm going to try this. and that's where it becomes a little more work. But if they're known firms to us and to Johnson Roberts and, to either you or Mark, great. I mean, that just helps push this even faster. Again, this is only the nod to continue to the next phase. It's not selecting them for the project. It's saying, okay, this is our pool. It's only going to be from these guys. Are there any that we really don't want here or are qualified to be here? And I say don't want here because also, if there was someone that Cohasset had worked with, and it's an issue because, an old issue, a legal issue, we could talk about whether we would pull them out at this phase once we get the RFP phase.
Okay, great.
So Michelle, I will send you these dates. We'll talk tomorrow about putting the ad in because we've got the newspaper we talked about, we've got combis. It's got to go all 3 of those at this phase. After that, it does not need to go in anything because it's from a pre-qualified group. We may have to put an ad in combis, actually, no, we don't need to. This is the advertisement piece to get the pool.
Yes.
Who we invite for the RFP after this, it's not public after that. I mean, the info's public, but the advertisement serves no purpose at that point.
Correct.
So I will get you these dates. We'll talk tomorrow. I will get you the spreadsheet updated with some exclusions probably this evening. Just
Okay.
And if you have any questions, let me know.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions for John?
All right.
That's great. Thanks, John.
Okay.
Jill, do you have anything more related to that? We've got more on the agenda. I just want to make sure we don't.
No.
Let
Are
John
you
go.
guys good? If you guys are good, I'll jump and finish
Yeah,
this and get it over to you.
just double checking. I want to make sure
Okay.
you have dinner tonight.
I ate a while ago. It's all good.
All
All right, guys.
Great. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right.
Talk to you
Thanks,
tomorrow,
John.
Michelle.
Talk to you
Bye-bye.
tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you.
That was great. A little bit of relief seeing that bottom line where it is with the CPC off of there.
Yeah.
Makes me feel a little better. Still a hurdle. Okay, so on the agenda, we still have a couple of things. We've got, want to talk about media outreach and the timelines. Have we covered the timelines or was that related to media? I'm not sure how you put this in here, Michelle.
Yep. So I think the timelines were related to getting towards this ballot question, which we've already covered.
Okay. And media and outreach. Gert, do you want to maybe summarize a subcommittee meeting we had, which Mr. Schreier.
Sure. So yesterday, Phil, Carolyn, and I met with Justin. Michelle participated in the second half of the meeting, just to walk through sort of what we feel like we need to do to socialize this project with the community, what are sort of our biggest obstacles are, and try to think about communication paths going forward. I think that there was a couple of good things that we came out with, and I think the couple, sort of the key points that we realized we need to do a better job of communicating to the town as we move forward with this project are communicating, why this project is necessary. So one, thinking about that, sort of emphasizing what we're going to get out of this, out of the project itself, like what benefits to the town, and also, why do we need to have a town hall? Because I think that that's a question that actually, you can sort of chuckle about it a little bit, but it's something that people are asking in a world where remote work has become more common. And so I think that there are points that we've discussed about trying to communicate on both those. One is, if we're looking at why do we need a town hall, we need to emphasize sort of the functions that happen within town hall. What do people do? So as part of that, thinking about interviewing people who come to town hall and what they do while they're here, interviewing people who work there, talk about the functions that that currently are happening there, and even things that are just stored, like there are requirements that we need to actually store documents within town hall. And then on top of that, thinking about, well, what does a renovated town hall look like, and what benefits does it actually provide the community, and trying to communicate, not just sort of like why we need a town hall, but what a better town hall is gonna do for us. So we talked about that and thought about ways that we can communicate that to the community. Justin's going to be thinking about that a little bit more, but one of the ideas that that came out of the meeting that I think we're really want to try to see what we can do with this in terms of advancing it as a possibility is working with an agency to come up with some sort of a campaign, develop a website for us, sort of a one-stop shop that's not relying on something like Facebook or Twitter, or even sort of like the town of Cohasset websites, but sort of a specific town hall, building renovation website that we can direct people to, that will have images there. It'll sort of want it to be sort of user friendly, post videos on it, but not have it be operating sort of like a Facebook page where there's going to be there's room for basically trolls to come out and sabotage our efforts by just sort of harping on continuous points, and it can put us make us look like we're on the defensive, right? So I don't think that any of us are afraid of answering honest questions, but I think that we all recognize that on social media it can be just sort of a toxic place that isn't necessarily reflective of positive dialogue and a way to have constructive conversations. Then there were a couple of other things that we talked about, just sort of more generally, like trying to meet people where they are. So, making the project, increasing the project visibility, putting up signs in certain locations, maybe like when people come in to visit town hall, put up renderings of what new town hall could look like. Having a time where we set up a table at the farmers market and provide, have a QR code that links to this new website so that people can basically just take, a business card with them, or just take a picture of the QR that we have on our table, answer questions that people have, and just try to raise the visibility of the project to make people more aware of what we're doing. There also was some mention of the Cohasset Anchor as a place that we could potentially put some content. I had heard of the Cohasset Anchor before, so I don't know, how many people have, but apparently it gets, pieces in there can get 8,000 hits a week, which it was, I guess that's, that sounds like meaningful engagement in a town of 8,000 people. So, so those are a couple of things that we talked about. And Phil, is there anything that you think that I'm missing there?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. That's perfect. Justin was very anxious to get going on this. He had a project going end of this week, but he wanted to start right in on it next week. He had some great ideas. I think the QR code and the dedicated web page where we can start funneling some real information for people to look at is, it's a great idea. You mentioned, the social media, which we're all kind of nervous about. We've always been very concerned about putting things up where people can make negative comments. So this is a direction that kind of stays away from that. So that's a good thing. We mentioned that, maybe going to Wilcott, putting up some signs or renderings there as well, talking to some of the elder folk that visit there all the time. I think Michelle had a very interesting point when she was over at Wilcott, that she had spoken to a couple of elderly citizens, and I think they were just tired of all the studying from down in town hall and just wanted to get it done. That's we're hoping that there's more people like that understand that you can only study these things so many times. You got to get them done. So if we can get it out there in the public and they approve the renderings, they're going to say, yeah, it's about time. Let's just let's sign the check and do it. So, but Justin seems great. I was thrilled with his energy and direction. Has some great ideas. So as he comes up with different things, I think we can continue to meet with him as a subcommittee and direct them and get some more information and bring it back to this committee and have some great updates on that. So thank you for that, Kurt.
Just as a possible, suggestion of or idea of material that could be communicated is, some of these efforts that we've gone through along the way in terms of value engineering exercises, sharing that information so that people can understand the value engineering we did with trying to utilize the basement space and reducing the square footage. Why are we not renovating pieces of this building? Talk about bringing it up to code and the requirements of, when you do a renovation of a certain size, exceeding a third of the value, that you have to bring it up to code, things of that nature, so people can understand some key points as to why we are at where we are at and why we're not doing just, a partial $3-4 million renovation to bring some things up to code and make things just a little bit better there. I do have a friend that writes for the Anchor, so she's already volunteered. She's offered her help in writing a piece for us in the Anchor, if that's something of interest. And you mentioned Wilcott, something like storyboards that can be left up at Wilcott that just can be set up on easels or something for folks to see and view while they go in there for their own services.
Great, perfect, thank you. Josiah, any comment?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Michelle, did you want to add anything to that, Justin's presentation?
So, because I was late to the presentation, I'm not sure if he talked about the storyboards at all, the story walk. So I don't know if you've gone to the library and seen the story walk. It was on the common. Now it's outside the library. We have several more of those platforms that we could put around town in specific areas and tell our story through that, if that's something you're interested in.
Oh, I think absolutely. It's got to be appropriate material, right? Do you go back to the heyday of Old Town Hall? I mean, there's probably some fabulous old pictures there. Does that intrigue the public, or do they want to see the picture of the new one, the layout of the new one? What does the public want to look at, and how many storyboards? I think
Right.
probably need some guidance on that. It seems like Justin has a very good finger on the pulse and that kind of thing. So maybe we can throw stuff at him and he can give us some recommendations.
Okay.
And I think probably the overarching message will be, we've got to touch folks in all these different ways, because certain groups and demographics are going to see and respond to certain bits of information. So, trying these multiple things and trying to hit as many people as we can, I think will be the key to success, and not just relying on one avenue to get us there.
Yeah, one of the things that Justin talked about was to try to show the value of the everyday use of the town hall was to do one or the other or both, of doing a video of showing what an employee actually does during the day, how they have to move around the building, how they have to receive customers, how they have to file things after it checks or give out permits or whatever. And then maybe a second one from an actual citizen's point of view, entering the building, trying to find the offices, having to come in and actually fill out paperwork and get the permit. They need to walk out with a permit, or whatever it is, pay a bill or see the nurse or whatever. But just show the actual function of the building. Which sounded kind of intriguing. Sounds tricky to me, but he was pretty confident he could do it in such a way that people would be interested in seeing how the current town hall works or doesn't work. So, Mark, I think you're hitting on the generational presentation. Make sure we hit all the different age groups. So try to hit them in different ways. That makes a lot of sense.
Or at least those that can vote.
Can't Hadley vote?
No, not yet. But she thinks she can. Thinks her vote matters.
Michelle, where are the locations that these can be? Are they very public places? And
Yes. Yep.
Does it have to be town property? How does that work? What do we?
Are you're talking specifically the storyboards?
the storyboard options?
Yeah. So I think town property is the best place, since we do ask our facilities team to help us stage them. Maybe out in the Wilcott garden area is probably a good place to tell the story. It's getting nicer out. People want to be outside. They want to enjoy it. And maybe you can tell a little story around there.
I mean, that the town common seems like a very
Yeah, too
feasible
bad
place.
last weekend when they had the big.
Well, but
art
even
center.
still, every week they have the farmers market, so you have folks there for the farmers market.
Yeah.
It's obviously the perfect backdrop is there. The subject is there.
And could put a rendering, so you look at the ugly building and see the rendering.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a great question. Just to know where to be able to put them.
You guys have to go and catch a train pretty soon, so if you want me to vote on something, I don't want you to fall out of being a quorum.
No, that's why I did the minutes when I did them. I know you had to leave at 8:15 by 8:15. I didn't know
I
Caroline.
could stay, but I just,
Nope.
for a couple minutes.
I think we're wrapping up. I was just going to ask if there was anything else that we needed to talk about tonight. No, I think we're good. I think we had a good meeting. It was so good to hear John's number. It's
One thing, Phil, that did come up yesterday that I think we are going to have to grapple with is the question about the sort of some of the finishings for the auditorium space, which I think maybe we haven't really given enough consideration to, things specifically around building out any sort of necessary electrical infrastructure for lighting. There are some questions about the curtains that would be used for the stage and also for the windows to provide adequate darkening. It's something that we need to think about, because I don't know that it's been within the scope of what we've talked about. And I don't know what the Cohasset Dramatic Club is thinking about as well, but all of this stuff does cost money. And so we're getting to a point where we're talking about the benefits this, this project could provide, which is, a more functional, usable auditorium space. And we build a space that actually can't be used because it doesn't have sort of the necessary components to it to actually be used as a theater. Well, it's a little bit of, it seems a little bit of false advertising at that point, right? So we need to be careful about what we're committing to, and what we are also willing to take on, and what we think other groups should take on. And if there's a partnership that we need to strike, and if there's some opportunity for private funding, well, that's something that we need to at least be starting to have those conversations, so that we can understand what we're communicating to the public around these portions of the project.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for bringing that up. I had mentioned yesterday that there's very little being done inside the auditorium itself. We did have an acoustical engineer that we paid money for. We have a report for that, but we're not applying anything for that at this point. As far as I know, none of the lights or the electrical for the lights is being done. And apparently the stage curtain's new, but we don't know what else is needed for production type of thing, so that we can encourage other groups to come in there. So we did talk about getting together with Lisa and maybe some other groups with Tucker and finding out if there's something, as Kurt said, either we can add maybe to the CBC funds, or we can get a private public donation type of thing to cover those items. But you're right, if we don't take care of those, we're going to be short-sighted when it opens up and nothing, the old lights are hanging there, the wires are hanging off the old lights and they're not working, so forth, so on. So great point. So we'll get Tucker involved, I think, in that, and Lisa, and we'll see. If we
So
can
with
find-
all the, I'm sorry, this is just
Go ahead.
in the back of my mind. With all the financial people looking at this in a microscope, is anyone saying there's a recession coming and prices will drop? And maybe we should wait a little bit,
Prices never go down.
even if there's a recession? You're right.
No, I'm being facetious, but yeah, I haven't heard anybody say anything about that. So, Mark, maybe you would know more, being in the industry.
No, there has really been no talk of that. I mean, the most of the talk has been in the stabilizing of just things becoming more available. I don't think prices are going to necessarily come down, because even as they come down, they're naturally going up, if that makes sense, over time. So it's really kind of may just, in terms of reality, it may just slow the growth and may just flatten more so than down.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm being just a little paranoid.
No, it's,
And I have to go, or I'm gonna miss my train. I'll have to wait till 10:30, so,
thank you very much. Josiah.
Yeah,
sorry.
Appreciate it.
Hi, Josiah.
Apologize. We done? Anything else?
Good.
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
All right.
Hi.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night.